You are watching Hockey North. Anastasia Bucsis here alongside my partner in crime in the flesh. I'm so happy to see you, Karissa. Listen, the playoff race is heating up. All teams have one game to go. Ottawa could have clinched. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. They take the big L, of course. They lose 3-0 to Minnesota. Initial thoughts there?
Yeah, first of all, what a treat to just be sitting across from you talking about hockey. Best time of the year. So the game last night, I'm going to take a page from what Carla McLeod said in her post-game presser. It was a little bit blah. It felt like the team never found their stride or their confidence. There were a lot of turnovers, and not just in the neutral zone, but in the defensive zone as well. They just couldn't seem to get the puck out of their own end. And Gwyneth Phillips, to her credit, she made a lot of fantastic saves. And, unfortunately, just kept coming at her, and it just wasn't their night. And it's really unfortunate because we've talked before about the fans in Ottawa. That is a rabid fan base. They were so excited. It was fan appreciation night. It would have been cool for them to clinch a playoff spot at home.
Yeah, that would be. We've talked about the fans. Unbelievable. And Carla, for her to be negative in press conference, you know that there's absolutely some disappointment there. All 6 teams, though, playing on this Super Saturday. That's what we're calling it. How exciting is that going to be, especially given that, essentially 3 teams battling for that last playoff spot?
I think it's really cool. I mean, my only complaint, Anastasia, is that the games are back to back to back, so they're not really spread out. So you're going to have to turn a game off to turn another one on. So personally, I'm a little bit upset about that. I'm going to have to get the 2 screens going and stuff like that, and I get pretty easily distracted, so I don't know how that's going to go. But the league couldn't have scripted it any better, right? And I think it just speaks to the parity that we've talked to before, that you've got 3 teams, and it's coming down to the very last day of the season. Second year in a row that has happened. And the matchups are kind of cool too. I mean, you've got the Battle of Ontario, no offense to the Leafs and the Senators, but this is the Battle of Ontario. And then you've got a Walter Cup final rematch. And then even the Montreal-New York game, there's still something at stake there with, Montreal looking to clinch first. So it's going to be a really fun day.
Super Saturday in the PWHL. Get your snacks. Let's talk Ottawa, though, because they still have a shot. What do they need to do to clinch a spot in these playoffs? They're facing Toronto.
Okay, so this is the complicated math that we're facing here, Anastasia. I'm going to look down at my cards for this one. So Ottawa needs to beat Toronto in regulation or in overtime, or Minnesota needs to lose to Boston. And so the key thing here is that if Ottawa and Minnesota are tied in the standings, Ottawa will move forward because they have won the top tiebreaker, which is regulation wins. They have more regulation wins than Minnesota. They've built up a cushion there, and that's where those regulation wins really come in handy. So Ottawa is still in the driver's seat here. The way that head coach Carla McLeod said after the game is they're holding the ticket in their hands. So they have to be excited to win rather than afraid to lose. So it is nice, at least, obviously they didn't clinch that spot in front of their fans, but to be able to have it in your hands and not really have to wait on what somebody else is doing is definitely a privilege.
Absolutely. Okay, my mind is going now, and I kind of want to play armchair psychologist, if you don't mind. Because Toronto also has an opportunity to clinch first place. And I will remind viewers in the PWHL, if you finish first, you have the opportunity and the privilege to choose who you're going to face off against first. So what does Toronto do? Do you go for it to get that advantage, finishing first? Or do you go, ooh, the playoffs are really physical, we're going to rest up and we're going to be really strategic?
I mean, I think you go for it, right? I think that's just in their nature, and even more than being able to pick your opponent, which I think is a very cool rule, just as a fan of chaos. I think it's awesome that they do that. It's more about the momentum and the confidence going into the playoffs. So I think that, yeah, they're definitely going to go for it. And, there's all kinds of reasons, too, why you might pick somebody. I mean, it could make for easier travel. Like if Toronto gets to, pick Ottawa, for instance, instead of Minnesota, that's makes a huge difference to not have to get on a plane. So, I think they're going to go for it.
I agree with you. It's a fun question to kind of ponder around. I don't think that's the identity that Troy Ryan has built around the Senators as well. Boston, though. Let's chat about Boston. Is that a team that Toronto or Montreal want to face in the playoffs?
No, definitely not. I mean, Boston, I think, is the team, in my opinion, that you would least want to play in the playoffs. We saw it last year. I mean, number one, they have a lot of players who are kind of built for the playoffs and, one of the more physical teams in the league. So I think of players like Kelly Babstock and Lexi Agia and even somebody like Jill Saunier, just players whose games are built on that kind of grit. I think they, play really well in a situation like the playoffs. And then the second part of it is Erin Frankel.
Yeah.
Obviously, we don't know what her situation is right now, if she's going to be back for the playoffs. She's not on long-term injured reserve. She's in concussion protocol right now, but she is a goaltender, as we saw last year, who can and will steal a game. So I do not want to be facing the Green Monster. Again, first of all, if I'm Montreal, we saw how many times they went to overtime. We might see quadruple overtime if they play again, and personally, I don't think I can do that. I've got to go to bed.
I got to go to bed too. I don't want quadruple overtime for anyone, and we are very much hoping that Erin Frankel is back to full health immediately. You have been following expansion for so long. We now know the PWHL is coming to Vancouver. It's coming to Seattle. Woohoo! Initial thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool that we're already talking about expansion, right? It feels like just 5 minutes ago that we were talking about the league starting. So the fact that we're already, that it's already grown to 8 teams is kind of a cool thing. Seattle and Vancouver are pretty cool markets. Seattle, obviously, huge women's sports scene, and Vancouver, well, we all know what happened there in 2010. Obviously, a long history of women's hockey there as well. Climate Pledge Arena is where they're going to be playing in Seattle, which is really neat. So they get to play in a brand new building. And in Vancouver, they're going to be the first PWHL team to play in their own building, which is really cool. The one thing that I think is really exciting about this sort of first step that we've seen here, Anastasia, is that there's more to come. So the PWHL has been clear that this isn't it. They do want to expand more. They want to grow more. It may not be, in season 4. It may not be in season 5. We don't know when. We don't know where, but we know they're going to continue to grow, which is neat.
It is neat. Expansion draft, like what does that do to the logistics of this league, and especially goalies? That's where my brain goes.
Yeah, I mean, expansion draft sounds pretty fun. Obviously, if you're a fan of a current team, maybe not so fun, because the one thing that we do know already, Anastasia, is that it's going to be competitive. These 2 new teams, right off the bat, they want them to be able to compete. So obviously, the current teams are going to be losing some pretty good players. And you mentioned goalies. I can't imagine that teams will be able to protect more than one goalie. So you look at Ottawa, for instance, they've got 2 really good goaltenders. Maybe Gwyneth Phillips finds a new home. She's somebody who could be a starter in this league, and unfortunately has been behind another great goaltender in Emmerich Mashmeyer. Elaine Chuli is another person who comes to mind for me, who could be a starter in this league, but again is behind a really good goaltender. So it's going to be really interesting to see. Can they protect 4 players, 5 players, 6 players? But if I'm a fan of an existing team, I think you're going to be losing some folks that you really like. But it's all for the greater good.
Buckle up, we are growing. Talking about goalies, CJ gets their first start. Come on, hang it in the Louvre. What a cultural, beautiful moment, especially for Pride Night for the Scepters.
Yeah, I mean, that was just so cool. Just such a cool moment for them, and they're such a positive person. And when you think about that job, it's such a hard job to do, to be the 3rd goaltender, because you show up at the rink every day, you practice, you take shots, but then you don't get the opportunity to play. And they've been doing that for 2 years now and supporting their teammates, and they're very well loved on that team. So it was very cool just to see them have that moment. Also a little shout out, from the East Coast, and a little East Coast connection there. Troy Ryan was talking after the game about how CJ was goaltender on the Canada Games team from Nova Scotia way back when. Allie Monroe, also on the Toronto Scepters, was the captain. And Allie Monroe came to see Troy after, I believe it was after the game, and just said, good things happen to good people.
Yeah.
And it's true. I think that's the best way you can say it.
Chef's kiss, period. It's going to be great. Hey, the playoff race is almost complete. It's going to be a super Saturday in the PWHL. Andy Petrillo, Haley Salvian, and Hannah Bunton will give you all the goods. They're going to give you complete coverage of the entire playoff picture. You can watch the last game of the PWHL regular season right here on CBC and CBC Gem. That's going to be set at 2 p.m. Eastern. New York is facing off against Montreal.